There's a particular kind of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. You can be surrounded by people. You can be liked, even loved. You can have a full calendar and a room full of friends, and still feel, underneath it all, that no one actually reaches you. That if you vanished, people would miss the role you play, not the person you are. This is the loneliness almost no one names, because it sounds ungrateful. How can you be lonely when you're not alone? And yet millions feel it every single day. Carl Jung understood this ache with unusual precision, and he did not think it meant something was wrong with you. He thought it was pointing at something you needed to hear. By the end of this, you'll understand why you can feel unknown in a crowded room, where this loneliness actually comes from, and what Jung believed it is quietly asking you to do. Stay with me, because this feeling, as painful as it is, may be one of the most important messages you'll ever receive. Let's begin by separating two things we constantly confuse. There is being alone, physically by yourself, and there is loneliness, the felt sense of being disconnected, unseen, unmet. They are not the same thing at all. You can be completely alone and feel deeply at peace, whole, company enough for yourself. And you can be in the middle of a party, a marriage, a busy office, and feel a loneliness so sharp it takes your breath. Think of Hannah, who was never without plans, friends, dinners, a partner, a warm and busy life. From the outside, no one would ever have called her lonely. But most nights driving home, she felt a hollowness she couldn't explain and was almost ashamed of. She was surrounded. She was also, in a way she couldn't say out loud, completely unmet. This is the loneliness Jung cared about, not the simple absence of people, but the absence of genuine connection. And once you see the difference, you realize that adding more people, more plans, more noise has never once touched it. This is why the usual cure backfires. When the ache strikes, we reach for more contact, more socializing, more scrolling, more noise to drown it. And for an hour, it distracts us. But it's always waiting when the noise stops, because we've been treating a connection problem as a quantity problem. You can't fill a specific hunger with the wrong food, however much you pile on. More people is the answer to being alone. It is not the answer to being unseen. And because it hides so well behind a full life, most people carry it in silence, convinced they're the only one, sitting in rooms full of others who feel precisely the same and are hiding it just as carefully. The loneliness of feeling unseen is, ironically, one of the most universal experiences there is. Almost everyone around you has felt it. Almost no one admits it. And that silence is part of what keeps each of us so alone inside it. Why this matters. If your loneliness doesn't lift when you're around others, it was never about being alone. So where does it come from? This feeling of being unknown among people who know your name. Jung gave one of the most precise answers ever written. He said that loneliness comes not from having no one around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Read that slowly. Loneliness is not empty space around your body. It is the things inside you that never make it across to another human being. The thoughts you don't say, the self you don't show, the parts of you that stay behind the glass. Think of Lucas, who could talk to anyone, charming, funny, endlessly social. But he never told anyone what actually moved him, what frightened him, what he longed for in the dark. He kept every conversation in the shallow end, where it was safe. And so he was surrounded by people who liked him and known by none of them, because the real Lucas never once came to the table. And most of us do a quieter version of this. We share the easy things and hold back the ones that matter, telling ourselves it's not the time, they wouldn't understand, it's too much. Underneath is usually a simple human fear that if we let someone see the real thing, the doubt, the longing, the strangeness, they might turn away. So we stay hidden to stay safe. But the protection is the trap. A self that is never shown can never be met. Our age has industrialized this. We share constantly now, updates, images, curated glimpses, and feel lonelier than ever because almost all of it is more persona, the highlight, the acceptable version. We broadcast the mask to thousands and let no one see the face. The result is a strange modern isolation, more visible than any humans in history, and in some ways less known. The metrics of connection climb: followers, likes, replies, while the felt experience of being met quietly falls. It is connection's hollow shell, and some part of us always feels the difference. And here is where this meets something we've spoken about before: the mask, the persona. When people only ever meet the face you perform, their warmth lands on the mask, not on you. You can be admired by everyone and still starve, because admiration for a performance can never feed the self behind it. Why this matters now: you are not lonely because no one is there. You are lonely because the truest part of you has not been let out to be met. But Jung saw a layer beneath even this, and it's the deepest root of the whole ache. Before we are cut off from other people, we are very often cut off from ourselves. The loneliest distance is not between you and the person across the table. It is between you and your own inner life. Modern life keeps us so busy, so distracted, so pointed outward at screens and tasks and noise, that we lose contact with our own depths. The quiet inner world Jung believed is the source of meaning, imagination, and the self. And when you are a stranger to yourself, you will feel like a stranger everywhere. Think of Omar, who filled every silence, podcasts, feeds, work, background noise, because when it all went quiet, he met an emptiness he didn't know how to be with. He wasn't only avoiding other people's absence, he was avoiding his own presence. And you cannot share a self you've lost touch with. It's worth noticing how frightening plain silence has become. For many people, being alone with no distraction, no phone, no screen, no task, is genuinely hard to bear. That discomfort is the tell. It's the sound of someone meeting a stranger, and the stranger is their own inner life. There's a quiet grief in seeing that the person you've been hardest to reach is yourself, but there's relief in it too, because it means the connection you've been chasing out there has a source much closer to home. You are not doomed to wait for someone else to finally see you. You can begin tonight by turning toward the one you've kept waiting the longest, the self you stopped listening to somewhere along the way, who has been here the whole time. This is why the loneliness follows us into every crowd. We are carrying a disconnection we haven't healed at its root, not from others first, but from the person we stopped listening to a long time ago. Why this matters: the connection you're starving for has to begin somewhere closer than you think, with yourself. And here is where everything turns. because Jung offered a way to see aloneness that changes it completely. There is a world of difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the pain of feeling disconnected. Solitude is the chosen, nourishing experience of being with yourself, and Jung considered it essential. He wrote plainly, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing, which makes my life worth living." For Jung, the time we spend deliberately alone is not the problem to be escaped. It is where we finally hear ourselves think, where the inner voice we've drowned out can begin to speak again, where we reconnect with the depths that the noise had buried. Think of Mira, who used to fill every empty evening in a quiet panic. When she finally, reluctantly, kept one evening a week with no plans and no screen, the first weeks were awful. Then something shifted. In the silence, she began to hear her own thoughts again, to remember what she actually loved, to feel like a person instead of a performance. The aloneness she'd feared her whole life became where she felt most herself. She hadn't found more people. She'd found the one who was missing. Jung wasn't romanticizing isolation. He knew endless, involuntary loneliness corrodes a person. What he pointed to was what intention changes. Aloneness you flee stays loneliness. Aloneness you enter on purpose becomes solitude, and solitude is where you're restored enough to truly meet others. And paradoxically, the people who have made peace with their own solitude often connect most deeply of all, because they arrive not desperate to be filled, but able to actually be present. Wholeness within is what makes real meeting possible. The very aloneness we fear, approached differently, becomes the doorway back to ourselves. This is the reframe that heals. The empty evening you dread is not proof that you're unloved. It can be an invitation to stop running outward for a moment and finally turn toward the one relationship you've been neglecting. The loneliness was never asking you to find more people. It was asking you to come home to yourself first. So what do you actually do? The way through has two movements, and they go in this order. First, inward. You rebuild the connection to yourself, the very thing the noise severed. Time alone that you stop fearing and start protecting. Attention paid to your own inner life, what you actually feel, what your dreams are saying, what matters to you underneath what you're supposed to want. You cannot offer a self to others that you have not first met. Then, outward. And this is the brave part. Loneliness among people only ends when you let the real self be seen, which means risking the thing the mask exists to prevent. Saying the true thing. Sharing what actually moves you. Letting one person past the glass, even though they might not receive it. It doesn't require 100 people. Jung's kind of connection is not about crowds. It's about depth. One relationship where you are fully known does more for this loneliness than 1,000 where you are merely liked. Lucas, the one who kept everyone in the shallow end, eventually took one small risk. To a single friend once, he said the true thing, that beneath all the ease he'd been struggling, lonelier than anyone knew. He braced for awkwardness. Instead, his friend exhaled and said quietly, "Me too." That one honest sentence did what 15 years of easy socializing never had. You don't have to do it all at once or with everyone. Start with one safe person and one true sentence. Depth is built in small, deliberate risks, not grand confessions. And each time the real thing is seen and received, even imperfectly, something in you learns that being known is survivable, even good. and the order matters. People often try to fix this loneliness from the outside in, new friends, new city, new relationship, and are baffled when the ache follows them. Begin instead from the inside. Meet yourself first, then let that self be seen, and even a small, ordinary life starts to feel less lonely because you are finally present in it. The world didn't have to change. You had to come back to it. Every small act of real self-disclosure is a crack in the glass. And slowly, as you let yourself be known, first by you, then by a trusted few, the loneliness that no crowd could ever fill begins at last to ease. So here's the question to sit with tonight. When do you feel most alone? And is it really other people you're missing? Or a connection to yourself you've let go quiet? Tell me in the comments. Where in your life do you feel unseen, even when you're not alone? Saying it is itself a small act of being known. I read every reply. And if this reached the part of you behind the crowd, subscribe and stay close. We're learning to come home to ourselves together, one piece at a time. In the next video, we follow this inward to something Jung believed sits close to the very center of who you are, hidden, strangely, in the things you most firmly reject. Because the cure for this particular loneliness was never more people. It was finally being met, starting with you.